know.
Hunter?
Good to see you. Huh? How you doing? Thomas McDaniel. That's kids. Huh?
10 o'clock. Yes, sir. Been a while.
Where's Mary?
Looks like it, huh?
They're on the table in the back.
Ain't nothing left.
You want me there? Well,
If you
have
speak.
any blank ones are on the table.
Harry got one.
Yeah, about 400 of them.
Derek, red light's gotta be on? Red light?
Yes. Red lights have to be.
It's off?
That's right.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Good morning, everybody. This is Thursday, the 13th, 2022 at 10 a.m. This is a meeting for everybody. Anybody wanting to speak and everything else? I'd like to have Mr. Joe say the pledge and Mr. Quinn say the prayer.
Please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Yes. Thank you.
We're going to move to item 3, Mr. Hunter Lundy, candidate for governor.
Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to be here today on especially a day that seems to be a lot on discussion, a lot on the agenda. My name's Hunter Lundy. I'm from Lake Charles. I grew up in Lake Charles in Calcasieu Parish, went to LaGrange High School. Started McNeese, then I transferred to a small college in Mississippi where I played football. Then I played, after that I went to law school in Mississippi, and I worked for a federal judge in Biloxi for a couple of years, but I moved back to Lake Charles in 1981 and worked for Governor Jones's firm for a few years. He was the last governor that we had from Southwest Louisiana. Then I started my own law firm 36 years ago, and I think you kind of want to know a little bit about my history. And so I started that firm 36 years ago, and we've grown it and we've practiced. But I grew up in Calcasieu Parish and actually learned to duck hunt from a man named Coy Dupachin, who worked with my dad. And I grew up hunting on Little Chenier Road. Over the years, I spent a lot of time in Cameron Parish. Most of it was wildlife related. And when I made this decision in the fall of last year to run for governor, I knew I was leaving the law practice after 40 years, but that I knew my call always was to help people. And I've been doing that in the courtroom primarily over the last 40 years, but I want to take it to a different level. I had 4 people independent of one another tell me that I should run. The last one was my mother, who's approaching 91, that is my biggest fan, and she's doing very well. But a little bit about my family history. My grandfather was a football coach and a math teacher in Mississippi in the Delta most of his life, but he gave up coaching to move to Louisiana to be the scout executive for Calcasieu Parish. My father was in college at the time. He eventually moved to Lake Charles. My mother was the daughter of a rice farmer, and so she had left Bell City and finished school at Lake Charles High, and that's how they met, and they raised their family. I have an older sister, I have a deceased older brother, and I have a younger brother who's taken over the leadership of my law firm. And I say I started it 36 years ago, and he's a little bit younger. But we have had a great practice, but mainly helping people. I can tell you a little bit about the race, but I don't want to take up your time. You got a lot of people here today. You got some important issues, but I'll be free to talk to anybody at any time and answer any question. I'm a registered independent. I left the Democratic Party a number of years ago, but I'm someone who is a fighter, but I'm not divisive. And so we've had so much division in years past, particularly in the last decade, that it's stopped progress to some degree in communities and states like Louisiana. But I think that although I have a lot of tenacity and the world probably says I had a good reputation as a litigator, I still believe that we can build bridges and we can make things just like y'all will try to work out this decision that y'all have to work out today on redistricting. And so that's what it's all about. I believe that government is, people control the government. Government don't control the people. And government is from the local level, just like it is right here today. Same with school boards. I believe education should be run from the school board on up. People can talk to school boards. They can talk to police jurors, but sometimes they have a difficult time talking to their state reps, although you got one here today that you can talk to who came right up here. And one other thing I'll tell you about my involvement in Cameron Parish. So after Hurricane Rita, Laura Leach approached me about wanting to do something for Cameron Parish. At the time, we saw that the state of Texas was generating $2 billion a year over bird watching. And so she was trying to create something to attract business to this parish. At that time, I got to know Ryan. Of course, I already knew David Reshore. We formed a board. We started working on it. The next thing you know, you had the BP oil spill that slowed all that down. But then we formed a nonprofit called Cameron Answers, and that Cameron Answers group became the go-between between this parish and eventually Venture Global to try to help negotiate some of that and some of the benefits. And so we hired Robert Kidder. So I was on the board in the founding of Cameron Answers to help generate the economy for Cameron Parish at a time where things just started happening. So we went from looking at bird watching to then dealing with a BP oil spill, which slowed everything down, and then for the opportunity that Venture Global would come to town, which it has, and the economy is shifting. And so we hope and we believe that Southwest Louisiana will be the LNG capital of the world, if it's not already. So I've been planted in all those issues, and I have them on my mind and my heart. And so I think that running strong out of Southwest Louisiana and my strategy for winning as an independent, if I'm in the runoff, I'll be your governor. So thank you for the time, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundy. Number 4, we got Mr. Guy Bradbury, candidate for a Third Circuit Court of Appeals judge.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity to come visit with you today. Talking with Ryan Boriak and Tom Barrett, and I said, these are all the leaders of this wonderful community. What should I talk about? Both of them at the same time said I should talk about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna get right to it because of time constraints. So I have some prepared text. Again, thank you for the invitation to meet and address this respected group of civic and political leaders. I see so many familiar faces in here, and I've gotten to know over the last 30 years of my public service. I'm blessed to call all of you friends. For those of you who I have not met, I want to thank you for your service to our community. What you're doing here today is paramount. You are a service to this community, to our political system, and I thank you for just allowing me to bend your ear just for a minute. I'm Judge Guy Bradbury. I presided in the 14th Judicial District Court as a state district judge for over 20 years, and I've heard thousands of cases. I'm running for the Court of Appeal because we need experienced, fair-minded judges who can review the lower courts to determine whether or not we're following the law as is written in a way and is like writing new law from the bench, not legislating from the bench. Louisiana law is the solemn expression of legislative will. We got to remember that. Ryan reminds me of that a lot. I'm a man of deep faith. I'm a Republican conservative, and I respect so much the Constitution. To me, our Constitution and our laws are sacrosanct. I want to make sure that we are, to remind you that we are blessed to live in a country where freedom is derived from the Almighty God, not from the government. Our founding fathers told us that, and had God, thank God, has had the foresight to protect us from an overzealous government and a ruler or a particular state. I have 5 key principles. I want to go over these really quick with you, and it's important that whether I'm in Cameron Parish with my friends here or my district is 5 parishes. It goes all the way up to Vernon, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, and Jeff Davis. You're going to hear me, if you've heard me before, I'm going to say the same things. 5 key principles. First, our unborn life is sacred. We have much to rejoice in the latest U.S. Supreme Court case that overruled Roe versus Wade. Got to remember, it took us 50 years to change a lot of hearts and minds. And we also are reminded with that decision that we have a lot of work to do, that we need to take care of our mothers and our babies, and that we have to give them a real chance at quality prenatal care and child care. As judge, I've presided over 1,000 adoptions across Southwest Louisiana, many from Cameron. And my role and my ministry is to unite families in the right way. It's a big part of my life. Second, criminals should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and kept off the streets until they paid their debt to society and been reformed without question or hesitation. This revolving door of crime poses a threat to our communities and our local governments, and it has expensive consequences to our legal system. Let me be clear. I find this woke movement, this defund the police movement by the radical left, is not only counterproductive, frankly, it's dangerous. I support more funding for law enforcement, but also incorporate alternative dispute resolution mechanisms like mental health courts and drug courts, and have a facet of rehabilitation. In fact, one of my proudest professional accomplishments was establishing a juvenile drug-free court so that we can teach our youth skills. When we get them in the schools and they're misbehaving in the schools or not doing what they're supposed, showing up to school, they're not participating, we bring that child in, make sure that child is properly assessed, and we're finding many of them are experimenting with drugs. So we get them in, and we get them in a rehabilitative setting. Our third, our religious liberty should never be threatened, no matter what faith you practice. We have now in our country this cancel culture, or woke radicals trying to shun our religious beliefs by using the state to override our religious freedoms. Liberals seem to believe that their values and their opinions count more than ours today. I object to that argument. Fourth, our classrooms are no place for liberal thinkings and teachings. They should be focused on fundamentals: writing, reading, arithmetic, science, technology, engineering, and math. These critical race theories and gender identity issues do not and have no place in our schools. This notion that 3rd to 5th graders can decide what sex or what gender they wish to be is wrong. It's the parents that should be making these decisions, not teaching and forcing that amongst our children. And 5th, our right to bear arms should never be infringed. Law-abiding citizens respect the Second Amendment. here, down here in our hunting, our duck hunting and our game hunting, we respect the Second Amendment. There are those that do not. Criminals don't respect any laws, and existing laws need to be enforced. We need to empower our district attorney and our law enforcement, not talk down to them or bad about them. In summary, I believe in old-fashioned common sense that we've seemed to have lost here in these crazy times. Social media surround outrageous behavior. It doesn't have to be this way. Let's bring common sense back to our country and our communities. May God bless Cameron Parish, these big decisions. I'll be praying with you today for these big decisions to be made. Let God lead you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge. Not on the docket, we're gonna let Mr. Mike Francis step up here for a few minutes.
Thank you, Jerry, for letting me say a couple of words. I think I can do it in 2 minutes at a time. Appreciate y'all's public service. I brought with me my head of staff, what it kind of keeps things between the ditches from me, Janice Perkins. I'd like to recognize Janice. Janice has been with the commission over 20 years, worked for 5 different commissioners. Before that, she worked for the jury in Lake Charles, in Calhoun Parish. So thanks to Janice, many times she's helped get me out of a bind with in this public service job. I've been your commissioner for 6 years, and I really appreciate serving you. Many of you remember about 40 years ago, I came to town and opened a business here, and I really did well here, folks. All of you, there's a few employees, former employees in here. The reason we were successful because there are a lot of good folks around here and a lot of hard work and a lot of prayers. And whenever I asked to be elected to this job 6 years ago, I promised to use proven business principles, the same kind of principles I use to build that business out there. And I want to thank you for those votes. And I'll be coming up again in November, and I would appreciate you considering that vote again. And I promise you I'll continue. I want to recognize 2 things, be really brief. We regulate electricity, natural gas, and several other things, but those are 2 of the major plays. In Cameron Parish, these hurricanes have destroyed our electricity and our gas. I was really pleasantly surprised and appreciative of CenterPoint and the commitment they have made to you guys here in Cameron to remodel and rebuild the natural gas system. It's CenterPoint, and they're going to spend a lot of money because they believe that Cameron Parish is going to come back and rebuild. And we just need to rebuild it where it'll stand 150-mile-an-hour wind. I want to recognize these 3 CenterPoint guys who are here today. Would y'all stand up for just a minute, fellas? That's the hand they deserve, and I told them you would probably go to clap and appreciate it. Thank you guys for what you're doing. That's Jim DeSherry, Brad Copage, and Drake Bourgeois. Thank y'all very much. One final point, Jeff Davis Electric services this area, and James Doxey is on the board, a good friend of mine. He's my duck hunting guide sometimes when I get him to go. But one thing that's happening on the electricity side that's it's probably going to take about 2 years for the total project. We're going to build an electricity grid down here to Cameron, from Chalkley to Cameron back to Hackberry. It's going to be able to stand these hurricane winds. And our grandkids are going to come back here. Of course, they're going to build houses that'll stand 150-mile-an-hour wind. We all know the building codes, but 20 years from now, Cameron is not going to be the same place. It's going to be a coveted place where people want to come back to. I predict we're going to have a 4-lane highway coming down here too, folks. This ship channel is a gold mine for all of us who want to be in business. This is a highway to the rest of the world. This LNG gas is very important for all of us, for the world, for America, and for Louisiana. And I'm excited. I spent my life in that business, and I understand a good bit about it. And I don't think I'm making any brag or boast here about what's going to happen. I'm very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to the next 6 years to serve in the Public Service Commission. Thank y'all for what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Let's see, we'll move to item 5. Kevin Savoy.
Good morning. Appreciate you guys giving us a few minutes of your time. Bradley and I are here to just present to you our annual report. No changes have been made in our staff. We still got the same folks. We got Miss Angela Connor, who's our office administrator. Bradley, who's our county agent. I'm the Sea Grant agent, and we've got Brittany Berg, who does Zonebreaker. Sorry. That doesn't get back to her. But anyway, she's our 4-H agent. She's not with us today. She is in Wisconsin at the National 4-H Agents Convention. She is president of the Louisiana 4-H Agents Association, which we're very proud of. So she's up there representing us. But I'm going to cover a little bit about what the Sea Grant programs have been doing in the last year here in Cameron. We've been fairly fortunate in dealing with the giant Salvinia issue. We had these big storm surges, wiped it out, and in February 21, we had some 15-degree temperatures, which knocked it back further. And this past winter, we went into an extended drought, which kept it from moving to the coast from areas north of us. But it's on its way back. And the nurseries up at LSU, at St. Gabriel, and the ones over in Cade, south of Lafayette, are ramping up, building back populations of weevils to start releases again. That's our best answer and our cheapest option right now. So that's one thing we're going to be dealing with this spring. I'd like to point out to you on this last page of the document that's in your packet, a little bit about the situation that our shrimp industry is in. If you look at that bottom graph, it shows the number of commercial fishermen in Louisiana since 1987. And we're on a pretty steep decline. We've got about 1/3 of the fishermen that we had 40 years ago. But in that same time period, we're landing the same volume of shrimp, between 80 and 100 million pounds. So each shrimper has gotten a little more efficient and able to land a little more. And in spite of that, this industry is in serious decline and actually in collapse. Some economists say they're collapsing. It's costing them more money to produce that product than they're getting at the dock, which is a bad situation for them. And that's what that top graph shows. Dr. Rex Caffey, who works with us at LSU, put this graph together for us. And it shows since 1980, the adjusted price in dollars for shrimp, and we're on a steady decline. And he makes a comment on this page saying that what shrimpers are getting currently for shrimp is about 50% of what they were getting in 1980 when you normalize the prices for inflation and other things. So they're in a very bad situation. And it's all because of imports. We got huge volumes of imports. They're coming in from Ecuador, Indonesia, India, and Vietnam are the 4 main countries. They come here very cheap. They've got cheap labor. They're high quality product. What kills those shrimp is ice. They pull them out of these ponds, dump them in ice. They look great. They get here in huge volumes. It drives our prices down. The domestic product comes down with it.
There's no way we can subsidize them, just like we do everything else.
There is no mechanism for that right now. To answer your question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, USDA subsidizes a lot of other commodities. Mm-hmm. There is no mechanism for that right now. So I don't want to leave you on a bad note. So the other thing that we've been working on is AOC Oyster Park, Alternative Oyster Culture, and we've worked with Port Commission, see Mr. Howard here, and Kim Monte, and we've made a lot of progress. The park is in the permitting phase right now. Their coastal use permit is being worked on. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're meeting with all of our applicants that we have to be growers in the park. We've got 10 applicants. We're going to choose 3 of them for sure, maybe more, depending on funding. They're gonna be funded up to $45,000 each to get them started, help them give them a leg up on buying equipment and gear and seed oysters to stock out there. So, we're moving forward on that. We've got till December of '23 to spend that money. So hopefully we'll get that started, and it'll be another little economic boost for Cameron and the seafood industry. These oysters that are going to be produced here are not going to compete with our natural reef oysters. They go to half-shell markets because of their size and their cleanliness. They never touch bottom. They're very clean. They got a different taste. They grow really fast because they're up in that water column where all the algae is growing, and that's what they're feeding on. So they command a little more money. They cost a little more to produce, but that's something that's getting started here in Cameron in the next year.
How many spots they have?
Right now, we've got it gridded off. There's 15 2-acre plots.
So each person will get 2 acres?
Each plot is going to be 2 acres.
And you're only gonna let 3 go right now?
No, they're all going to be up for lease, and that's going to be up to the port.
Okay,
But we're going to fund 3 of
3 of
those,
them. I got you.
possibly 5.
got you. Okay,
We're going to fund, well, not fully fund. They're going to have some other expenses.
right.
But we're going to fund up to $45,000 for them to buy cages and other ropes and equipment that they're going to need.
This is Cameron Parish people, right?
I've seen the list, and everyone is Cameron Parish resident but one. That was a Calcasieu resident. So everybody's local.
Why is the Calcasieu Parish resident in there?
They were included in the grant application.
It's a state funded deal?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't eliminate anybody.
Yeah.
But in the vetting process, preference is going to be given for Cameron and Calcasieu residents.
What was the final answer on the flood stage at Kinder? And how will it affect those oysters raised up off the ground?
They're going to have to follow the same health requirements.
Okay,
Yeah, when there's a closure there, they will not be able to harvest.
okay.
But we're not the only area that has that. I mean, there are health closures across the coast, and even in other states, and they have to abide by those rules. So I'm going to turn it over to Bradley for a minute. Thank y'all.
I'm not going to take up too much more of y'all's time. Y'all got a lot of stuff left to cover. But just a quick update on the 4-H program. And I want to thank y'all for y'all's support of letting us use the property behind our office for us to have our shooting sports practices. We have a few parents here that participate in the program with us, and they're very thankful of us to be able, y'all, to be able to have us a nice place to practice and get those kids ready for competition. We sent 20 kids to our regional competition last year, and 10 of those 20 made it to state. So I think it was 3 or 4 of them were actually in the top 10, or just right out of the top 10 in the state out of 250 kids. So because of that, because of y'all, those kids are able to succeed at a high level when we go to competition. This past year, we actually got to go back to Baton Rouge campus and have our short course. We're sending 3 kids to National Congress in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so we're actually, on the state level, our program is booming bigger than ever. We're still above average on keeping those kids in our program. So we're still performing at a high level compared to across the state. On my end, y'all know pretty much, I've dealt with most of y'all on numerous bases, whether it's having cattle or dealing with gardens or any kind of home orchard issues. But this year we implemented, or not really implemented, but going back to our burn certification program and getting landowners properly trained on smoke management and filling out burn plans and be able to take care of their pastures, their land, by using a tool that we all used before in the past, and that's lighting a match to a pasture. So we're going to keep doing that every year. We're going to we had 15 that participated this year, so hopefully next year we're going to have more. So we just want to make sure that the education is out there about smoke management. When it's right, and whoever's downwind, just be very careful. So if y'all have any questions, I believe y'all all know how to contact us. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. We'll move to item 6, CPRA representative.
Yeah, CPRA is here today to give you guys an overview of the project update. Y'all had tabled the Cameron Creel watershed, which is on item 8D under other permits. So they're here today to give you an update on their hurricane damages and where they are. And also Ms. Leanne Sharp is here to give you a little overview on the operations plan as well. So,
Thank you, Kara.
Good morning. I'm Deon Broussard with Coastal Protection Restoration Authority's Lafayette Regional Office. As they've said, I'm here to give a brief update on the post-Hurricane Laura repairs to our Cameron Creole watershed project. The project is comprised of a 16-mile protection levee on the eastern and southern rim of Calcasieu Lake. Embedded within the protection levee are 5 water control structures. We have 2 interior borrow canal plugs, as well as 5 monitoring stations. Zooming in on the south end of the lake, we've got the no-name Bayou water control structure along with the post-Rita sheet pile repair. We see both the sheet pile repair on the left. This is pre-storm water control structure on the right. Post-storm, the landowner access road was washed out along with some riprap that also was utilized for scour protection. That all got mostly washed out. We had some scour on the ends of the structure, but the structure in general remained intact. Since the hurricane, the landowner lessee has restored the landowner access road, has also dressed up the structure some, so that's been helpful. Remaining is on the eastern end of the structure, it needs some rock riprap work, and that's intended with our proposed work. At the structure, each end of the structure was compromised. We had scour. Since then, again, the landowner lessee has done some dressing up of each end of the structure with some in situ borrow material. Done a pretty good job of a temporary fix. And we intend to go ahead and do more rock riprap on each end of the structure to kind of harden it and provide a permanent fix. Lambert structure, we have a similar situation, sheet pile repair from Rita, along with the water control structure. This is pre-storm, it looks like. Scouring on the end of the structure, this is the east end, had the worst of the damage. We'll see there's a small spit of land in between the sheet pile structure along, bridging between the water control structure, and what we intend to do is carry on the sheet pile wall to the structure with the repair, enclosing the scour hole as well as protecting that small land mass. Grand Bayou water control structure, again, we have a sheet pile repair from Rita along with the water control structure. We had pretty significant scouring here. About 80 feet of earthen levee was removed, washed away, and actually there's a pretty big hole there now to minus 15 feet. So we're going to need to utilize some longer sheets at this location, bridge the old Rita repair to the remaining earthen levee, and close up the hole. At the mangrove water control structure, we had pretty big sedimentation on the outlet side of the structure, which is the lake side. It's going to need to be dredged out and hauled off the site because there's quite a bit of trash and materials in there that just we won't be able to spread on the site. And you see there by the, I don't know if you can see the survey, but basically, I mean, it's right at marsh level. I mean, the entire outlet is silted in. And so in closing, I'll say that not all of the repair work was listed here due to the time constraints of this presentation. So there are some other, I guess, more minor repairs that have gone along with this work. The FEMA PW was issued in April of this year. It was for $2.7 million. Looking down a little further, we have our current preliminary estimate from Royal Engineers, who we got on board in May, and they're moving quite along to get this work done. Their estimate is $3.3 million, and so we see that there's definitely a significant difference in the estimates. And so we'll have to go before FEMA again and try to get a revision to the BW to get more money. So that could be something that'll delay the timeline of this project, as well as the permit. We're in the permitting process. We haven't had any major hurdles, but we still don't have a permit in hand. But with all that being said, if everything, continues to plan, we expect to bid at the end of the year, beginning of next year, with construction starting in the first quarter of 2023 and construction completed by next summer.
I like to vote to keep that washout open. I mean, our shrimpers and crabbers and everybody's doing great.
I was expecting to hear that.
I was getting ready to say too that they've had the best 2 years since all this is washed open.
Maybe we can come up with a way where, it can ingress and egress and the shrimp and fish can come in and out instead of plugging it off.
Well, and of course, that's what the water control structures are in part intended for. We're certainly sensitive to that issue down here for sure, and we're not purposely trying to impact or harm anybody in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, it wasn't working. It's working now.
Yeah,
and on that note, we have Leanne Sharp of our office that's going to give us a brief report on the watershed in general and kind of answer to some of those questions.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
Have y'all made any changes to the operational plan for these structures?
Well, the short answer is no, since last probably we've given any kind of update, but Leanne will be here to speak to that.
Are y'all gonna prioritize that work to be done on them structures to the north before y'all actually close those structures, those gaps in the south? Let me tell you why. If you close them structures to the south before you actually clean up those structures to the north, we may have a process, a big flood come, and those ain't working, and you done plugged up the hole.
Right. We haven't given that a lot of thought just yet, but we can certainly write that into our specifications, in terms of sequence of work.
At least you have them to the north working right and dredged out before you actually go and close the.
Even the ones at the south don't work, Lee.
Yeah. All the ones. No, but I'm saying they're gonna go and close them holes up.
Yeah, and then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all know Leanne. I talk with her on a daily basis on opening and closing the weirs, and she's done a super job for us through the years. And I haven't talked to her much lately because of the washout. We got a lot of shrimp coming in and out, but she's done a great job.
Right. So your question about the operations plan, the operations plan is the same. It's the original operations plan from when the project was built, and it's actually tied to the permit. Permit cites the operations plan, and so the targets in that permit are pretty well set. I'd like to kind of go through current conditions, recent conditions, look at hydrology over the last couple of years, and think about the conditions and how that may have affected shrimping and your fishing. I know you had amazing years, and that's fantastic. I'm happy that it went so well. I would say, we've had some low water. It's been a lot lower in the last couple of years than it had been in previous years. So the gates would have been open during that time frame too. Obviously, there wouldn't have been a breach in the levee, but the gates would have been open. So let's get into it. So I've been in the NOAA sea level data, and I've been kind of looking at the long-term gauges. You may know I manage the CRIMS program, the Coastwide Reference Monitoring System, and so we have almost 400 sites coastwide, and we have a ton of water level data. And so I've been working to understand that water level data in the framework of Gulf of Mexico sea level and what's going on. And so you guys are going to get some of that. So basically, the NOAA data, I've smoothed it with a 5-year moving average to take the noise out of it. So everything we're going to look at is the smoothed running average. So this is sea level since the 1960s. And so on this chart we have Galveston, we have Sabine Pass from when it was running, we have New Canal, and we have the site at Waveland. And you see they're all doing the same thing. And if I pulled down 18 stations from the Gulf of Mexico, and they all basically have this same trend where the entire basin, the entire Gulf of Mexico basin, not just Louisiana, not just where it's subsiding, but the entire basin has gone up at about the same time. And there's an acceleration in about 2013 where it all just hits the fan and has sailed. And so you've actually seen the highest sea level rise in this most recent acceleration right here. Like the Galveston gauge really captures the long-term trends. When Galveston and Sabine Pass were logging at the same time, and Sabine Pass is offline now. So, but when they were on at the same time, they basically are telling the same story. So I'm going to use Galveston, but that definitely captures conditions right here at Calcasieu Pass. So if you look at that actual rise, and you know, I've broken it down in every unit. You can choose your flavor. But the sea level rise from, say, 1994, which is when it, if you go back to the trend, that's when sea level's going up, but in reality, it goes above and below the trend line as it goes up, right? Sometimes it spends a couple decades above the trend and a couple decades below the trend, and then it just reemerged into above the trend. And so we had from 1994 until 2013, it barely went up. You know, like I'd come down here and talk to y'all about sea level rise, and you'd be like, little lady, that's nice, but I've been looking at this ocean my whole life, and it's right where it's always been. And that was true until about 2013. But since then, it's really hauled, and it's gone really high. And so if you look at the actual rise, and then if you wanted to turn that into a rate of the most recent sea level rise, I mean, you've got, 2 centimeters a year here? You know, they're talking about 0.7 centimeters a year is the trend at Grand Isle. I mean, it's a lot. It's really high. It's really fast. It's the fastest in all of those Gulf of Mexico stations that I looked at. And so that's what we're dealing with, and that's kind of the biggest constraint on what we can do with the gates, because that water management plan has 2 targets, right? There's a salinity target. You're supposed to keep it at 5 parts per thousand in the back of the marsh. That's not to say there's no salt water in the marsh, but in the back of the marsh, back past the junction of Grand Bayou, it's supposed to be at or below 5 parts per thousand. But then the killer is you're trying to keep water level around marsh level. You want water level between 2 inches above and 6 inches below marsh elevation. That's basic marsh management. You can't have vegetation that's flooded a foot deep and in salt water and it stay that way and expect it to persist. I mean, we see a lot of land loss when there's persistently flooded saltwater marshes. And so what happened was when sea level went up, this is the Galveston data. This is the actual data. There's my trend line. There's the trend line. That's NOAA's trend line. There's my smooth, simple moving average that I fit through it. And then you can see the rise in 2016. It really goes up here. And then you can see the last couple of years it's fallen. It's gotten a good bit lower. That's La Nina. That's drought. That's ocean scale processes that affect what's possible here at Calcasieu Pass. And so looking at our operations, as it relates to sea level, in the beginning when CPRA began operating these structures, it was 2012. It was right at the end of that deep drought. It was really salty in the watershed. And in the beginning, up until 2015, and almost the end of 2015, all of that management was salinity management, right? If we had to close a gate, it was because it was too salty. And then from 2015 until Hurricane Laura, with the exception of a short window in the 2018 drought, all of those gate closures were water level related. It wasn't because it was too salty. It was because Calcasieu Lake was so high that it was just going to make water level well above where it needed to be. And in order to keep it at the range where it's good for vegetation, we had to have it closed. And so, you could change. I mean, you can't really change the targets in the management plan without changing the permit. But it wouldn't do you any good at this current sea level, even if you said make the salinity target 10 parts per thousand, if you keep the water level target, and I would recommend you keep the water level target, you're still going to end up with closed gates when sea level is really high. But looking at current conditions, so there is a relationship between La Nina and El Nino and sea level here. The last really strong one was 2010-11, and that's the lowest water in this record. And then 2016 was a really strong El Nino, and that's when sea level really went up. And then the last 2 years have been so amazing, have also been a really strong La Nina, and we've seen sea level fall a good bit. And this past year was really low. It was the lowest it's been. I mean, it's Mudflat City over here, I would imagine, this summer. And so, yeah, there's egress from the marsh. Everything's getting out of the marsh. You got tons and tons of drainage. It's perfect conditions for fishing. Again, if we had control of the gates during that time frame, they would have been open. I mean, we wouldn't have to keep water level out if sea level would stay that low. But looking at the forecast, we're supposed to stay in La Nina through the winter, and then it's switching to neutral, and then there's a hint of El Nino coming back in. That makes me nervous. It should make you nervous. If they're talking about El Nino, that's what 2016 was. That's a lot of potential sea level rise and heat and all the things that comes with it. And then I want to think about Calcasieu Pass. So when I'm managing these gates, I've got a lot of real-time stations, and I can go look at those, and I do. But you can tell what's going on just by looking at Calcasieu Pass and looking at the tide data. So the relationship between the predicted and verified tide tells the whole story. So typically, the actual tide runs above the predicted tide because the effect of wind, and usually there's a south wind or there's an east wind, and it'll make water stack. And so usually, particularly in recent years, actual water level is above just what the tide would have it be. Except when you've got a good north wind, like a cold front will knock this water level well below the predicted tide, and then you can tell that, yeah, you got a good deep cold front going through. But a westerly will also pull water level down to and even below the predicted tide. And this past summer, it were kicking. Like, it set up in June, and we had westerlies through July and into August, and it was the deepest I'd seen. I mean, I pay attention to this stuff. Like, I'm operating those gates, and I'm on a daily basis looking to see what's possible. When we were trying to have them open as much as we could. And so this was anomalous, and I had a student download the data, and I plotted it up. So here's what it looked like. I got so excited, I was taking screenshots on my phone. So what happened was when the westerly set up and stayed that long this year, it looked just like this all summer, where the high, I think it's the Azores high in the Atlantic, was big, it was permanent, it stayed in place, and it made this western circulation in the northern Gulf. And you can see the currents. I mean, that's just a shot from Windy. You can see the currents and when it gets going that way, where you've got the currents kind of coming up all the way from the southwestern Gulf, connecting through coastal Louisiana and heading east, it's going to drain. I know that it's going to drain. And that will pull the actual tide down to and below the predicted at Calcasieu Pass. And so I could actually look at Calcasieu Pass and see if it was still happening. Without even looking at wind data, you could look and see if the actual water level is still at the predicted tide, that you've got the western current is dominant, and you're going to be able to still drain water out. The Calcasieu Lake is going to stay low. But as soon as that turns off, and anything that disturbs that current will turn it off, it just stacks right back up. That's usually what...
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to try to finish up.
Okay.
Please.
I'm getting there.
Thank you.
So we'll skip this one. This is a comparison of June and July, 2021 and 2022, just kind of to make that point of what I'm looking at. And then just kind of to point out, like, I did look at, historically, since 2008, what those differences look like. And so these are average differences since 2008. And they do, your June really was different. Like, that's that bottom left corner. Like 2022, you had the lowest relationship between those two values that you've had in years and years. And it's stayed low, and so it was great. If I could create those conditions, if I had that kind of power, and we would have fantastic years all the time. So this is what the data actually look like for inside the watershed for flooding and salinity. You can see that as through time that flooding has been difficult to control, even with the operations. Salinity's not as big of a challenge if you're paying attention. And then land change. It all comes down to land change. All of this management is to preserve and maintain the actual vegetation that supports the fishery. It does work. The management plan works. When it was managed according to this plan, we do gain land and maintain land. We lost a bunch of land for the hurricane 2005 and then again in 2008. It took until about 2015 to get land loss stabilized, but we did gain land from 2015 to 2020. So I mean, it was looking pretty good in there when Hurricane Laura came. So it's a good management plan and it works. I have good news. Katie Freer's not here, but the CS87 project is in planning and is going to address some of these issues. Those guys are looking at, I squeaked a lot. I did take this problem to our restoration planners, and they are addressing it. And their solution, the smartest people I know modeled the watershed and figured out flow and where they'd have to clean out, and where they could put structures in order to move as much water as possible. And turns out it takes like almost 115 culverts to get water low enough in there. So, all right, you want me to be done?
Can I ask one question?
You sure can.
Just one question.
Uh-huh.
How much effect does the intercoastal waterway have on the Creole watershed?
Well, more now in that the CS49 project is online. They built a project that connects the GIWW to the north side of the watershed. There's a freshwater introduction structure there.
Do you
Is that what you mean?
Do you know do you know if the Corps of Engineers is holding the water higher in that watershed, in that intercoastal waterway?
I don't think that they are. I did look at that when we.
I've lived within feet of that intercoastal waterway.
Yeah.
And they have to operate with a certain depth of water for them tugs to cross. And the water gets so salty at Grand Lake that you can't catch a fish of no kind. I don't even know. Well, I've seen porpoises at Grand Lake Bridge. I'm just saying, if this water level that the Corps is holding higher because they're not dredging the intercoastal, it has an effect on the farmers, it has an effect on all the property owners, and it's going to have an effect on your project.
100%, but I think it's the Gulf of Mexico. I think the Gulf of Mexico is the limiting factor, and that means Calcasieu Lake is higher.
Yeah, but I agree with you
is higher.
that the Corps is the factor because they're letting salt water in when we have a drought. And when we get rainfall, you don't let it out fast enough. You can't let it out fast enough.
Right.
The Corps holds it back. So when we get a flood, you're 2 foot higher at the start of that flood.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
I do. I understand what
Y'all
you're
need
saying.
to, we need to be aware of that, what's going on. And we need to get some facts from the Corps and make sure that those questions are answered. And
Well, we previously looked at it from a different angle because our flooding statistics for all of our monitoring sites in the Mermentau Basin tell us that it's flooded too often, that water level's too high, and that it's a problem. And we looked at opportunities for drainage, whether they were taking advantage of all those opportunities, and what we found was it was really limited by the Gulf of Mexico and those drainage opportunities. It wasn't that they weren't acting. It wasn't that they weren't trying to drain. It was just that the Gulf and the bays that they're draining into just don't allow for them to get down to the target that they want.
The only thing I understand is that since them weirs has been blowed out and them levees been blowed out, maybe we've been in a drought.
You've
but
been
I
in a
don't-
drought.
But our
Drain.
drainage works a whole lot better.
Yeah, I think there's a at the same time, it's like since the storm, water level's been going down, and we've enjoyed some low water in these last couple of years. It's been great. The marshes inside the watershed don't look terrible. They actually look pretty good at the moment. They got a ton of sediment from the storm.
I
and
need
they-
you to take you to my marsh because it looks bad.
Where is it?
Due south of Lambert.
Due south of, oh yeah, it's probably gone.
That marsh is nothing left, and the salt water is tearing it up. Before the levees was put,
Yeah.
we had great marshes. Now, y'all trial-based this levee way back when. It was only supposed to be there for X amount of years. It ain't
Yeah.
went away yet.
Yeah.
And it's tearing our marshes apart. I don't care what that computer says. I'm there. I see it in real
Right.
life.
Right. I mean,
Instead of having these structures and holding the water, what happens is you let this salt water in the marshes, and you hold it, it evaporates, you're left with salt. And then their next cure, was it CS 87 and 88, they want to pump sediment from the lake into the marsh. Well, you're pumping salt water into the marsh. You got land back there you pumped before the storm, it looks like a damn desert, there ain't nothing on it, ain't nothing growing on it, it's salt. You need to put flat gates in these levees. When the water comes up, gates shut. We get a storm, it floods, while we all gone, when the water goes back, it goes out. It works itself. We drain the whole lower Cameron Parish on flat gates. They wanna lock up the water. Put big flat gates in Culverton and leave it alone. You just gotta find that happy medium to shut it. They haven't figured it out.
that's what CS 87 is. It's a bunch of flap gates and culverts that just let it out.
What's the projects y'all wanna pump all that sediment out of the lake right next to the oyster everywhere? That 88?
That's part of it too. It is drainage and marsh creation.
Okay, but I mean, do you want the salt water or not? You can't be digging in the
Okay.
It's not.
Excuse me. Okay, this is going a little out of hand here. This probably is a discussion. Thank you very much for your information, and a lot of people agree with you, but we need to move this along to some other time.
Okay.
Ma'am, you need to finish up, please.
I'm done. Questions?
Yeah, I got a question. I asked this a while ago about the operational plan. Now that you're going through the permitting process, when we first did these levees way back when, the people signed off on it. Some of them didn't like it. Well, it hadn't worked out real well for the shrimpers and the fishermen and the people in this area. So if you're gonna go through permitting, is that plan gonna come back and be involved in that permitting? And if not so, I'm asking for it to be there because we need to discuss when it's gonna be open, who's gonna fish, how it's gonna fish, and allow all the people the resources of this area.
Yeah, the plan hasn't changed. The plan is associated with the original permit for that CS04 project, that for the levees and the water control structures. The CS87 will have another permit and a whole other thing. I don't know what.
Well, I'm gonna ask you about the Grand Bayou.
Mm.
Is that permit gonna be coming up? Is there
What
gonna
do
be
you
a
mean?
permit for Grand Bayou?
The whole project is what Dion just.
That's what I was
gave
saying.
you.
I'm asking that operational plan be reviewed and gone over as part of that permitting process.
No, there's no operations management plan within this permit. This permit is a repairs
So they're gonna
to
go back
the
to the old
existing
permit
structure.
for the operational plan, and that's what I'm saying.
Correct.
We're not getting a good feedback on the old operational plan, we're asking for corrections to be made to it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I do think that's another meeting. I would say, I'm still,
That would be a good idea to have a meeting strictly for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. We have really a heavy docket, so I have
Yeah.
to ask you to finish up, please.
all right, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks,
Very
Dion.
much, and again, the shrimpers in this area, and you and and the fishermen actually need to have a sit down and have a really good discussion with the right, people, the authorities, on this project, in my opinion, so.
Yes.
But thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Okay, we're gonna move to item 7, public comment for batch 2 demo PBDR, condemnation properties.
Okay, we have 8 properties on the second batch for PPDR. Michael LeBlanc, 131 Edna's Road, Grand Lake. Celeste Amari, 876 Big Pasture Road, Grand Lake. Tammy Gaspard, 143A Venable Lane, Grand Lake. Carolyn Canick, 4476 West Creo Highway, Cameron. Margaret Wolf, 142 Primo Road, Creo. Leon Terrio, 165 Dupree Road, Grand Chenier. Judy Claymont, 520 West Main Street, Hackberry. And Glenn Welch, 118 Porche Drive, Hackberry. And we have received no comment on these 8 properties.
Okay, so you're gonna move that to the voting meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Any questions? We'll move to item 8, Ms. Kim Monty. Ms. Kim's with the Cameron Parish Port and Harbor Terminal District.
Yes, and I promise to be very brief, jurors. I'm addressing you this morning to update you on one of the many projects that the port has in the works. Back in June, Cameron Parish, along with St. Mary and St. Tammany, were chosen to be a part of a study by Purdue University and the Water Institute, designed to help guide Louisiana's comprehensive master program or master plan for a sustainable coast. The 2012 master plan offers a range of procedures to offset coastal land loss, restore portions of the landscape, and preserve the culture, economy, and heritage of the threatened regions. Since the 2012 document appeared, reaction has been mixed to the full array of restoration proposals. Communities have recognized some of the projects as vitally important and highly desirable, while questioning or opposing other projects. In an effort to gather information and to engage with multiple stakeholders, staff from the Water Institute carried out a series of public workshops as pilot projects at the community level. The Cameron Parish Port hosted one of these workshops this week for a cross-section of community members in Cameron Parish. Through the scenario building process, community members were able to identify potential cascading consequences that could be part of our futures with levees, elevations, and buyout projects, or without those projects in place. Ultimately, the purpose of our workshop was to provide sound public information that can be conveyed to decision makers. We had a great discussion amongst our community members and are hopeful that this workshop will prove to provide usable and valuable information specific to Cameron Parish as state decision makers update the 2023 Louisiana Coastal Master Plan. Thank you for your time, and I will continue to apprise you of the progress of this project and answer any questions you may have on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? Thank you, Kim. Okay, we're gonna move to item 9, Mr. Joe DuPont on redistricting maps.
I just wanted to say a couple words. I know we all been getting a lot of phone calls about the redistricting and everything. I'd like to see us take the maps and put them in all our communities and let the people look at it and let them kind of digest and see what's going on. I mean, we rolled this out quick. We had one public meeting and a lot of people didn't get to attend or come. And let everybody look at it. There's no reason that we should vote on it today. We've got a couple months. I think it got to be turned in January. Am I right, Katie?
December is the ideal.
Okay. Well, we got 30 days, or even can have a special meeting if we have to between our November meeting and our December meeting to vote on it. I think a lot of people, we got a lot of people in the audience that kind of upset with the maps. They didn't get to look at them good. They didn't get to talk to different people. And I like to see us just table it, or I even like to see us take it off the voting meeting and let's not worry about it this meeting and move ahead and be transparent where people can see what we're doing and not try to hide nothing, because that's some of the things that goes on with the jury now. People think we're hiding stuff and doing stuff without them knowing. Let's be transparent. Let's show them we're not doing that and take that off the voting meeting, and let's let it ride another couple months and let everybody look and put that out there in all our communities, every one of them. I think we got maps, Katie, that we can spread out, or Cole can get us some copies and put the big copies out in the libraries or, community halls or wherever. And let's let our people look.
Well, I understand you, I understand where you come from, but we've had 3 town hall meetings. We've put it on the internet. It's been on the internet for everybody to look at. This has been going on for a few months. And I don't understand, we already voted for an 8-member. Now, if we want to move some lines on the 8-member, we can do that. But we voted already to have 8 members. So I'm okay with moving a line or something if somebody's not agreeing with that. But as far as changing it, we done voted on that. And everybody's had plenty of time to look at it. Is another 30 days going to make a difference? I don't know.
I don't think we voted on the actual redistrict, and I think we voted to show the 8-member map.
No, we voted for an 8-member. We can bring that back up. We made it clear that it was 8 members. And so that's why we developed the 8-member map.
Hang on the we stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
Hang on the we stuff.
Okay, well, it was 5-3 voted for an 8-member map.
But it was to go out for public comment.
No, it wasn't.
Only. Yes, it's
pull
not.
Pull the minutes. We need to pull the minutes to make sure.
We already had 2 Polish jury meetings that it was
No, we
started out
didn't.
as.
No,
Yes,
we
so
didn't.
that's 2 Polish jury, last 2 months.
What I'm getting at, so we're not going to listen to our constituents, what
Well,
they all want.
well-
I don't think there's anybody that I've talked to was for the 8-member map. And I've talked to a lot of people. And I haven't talked to one.
I haven't had one phone call.
I haven't had one phone call yet.
Nothing.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys.
Okay, hold on.
I've been getting calls.
Hey, y'all, hold up. Hey, hold up.
It was
That's one person at a time,
Okay.
please.
We had them in. There's most districts, nobody's complaining. There is some from Grand Lakes that's complaining. But we have 5,000-6,000 people in the parish. Well, we have 30 people. That's not going to change my mind. We get half the people or a third of the people to come forward and say, no, we don't like this, then I'll reconsider. But as of now, we kind of plan to vote this meeting. Everybody had plenty of time to look at the maps. It's on the internet. We had our public meetings. We had 2 meetings in here. So personally, my vote is to go ahead and vote on it.
Well, what are we voting on if we already voted for the 8-member map? What are we voting on today?
We're voting on the districts of how it's drawn up today.
So
Not voting on how many, we're voting on
The 8-member
what.
map is what we're doing.
Right. What?
We're voting to approve the 8-member map as written.
The way it's drawn.
So
We already
ordinance-
voted the 8 members.
Cade, you got some insight on this for us?
Whoa.
Watch that head.
Hey, Cade, watch that TV.
It's a lawsuit.
So technically, what we have to do as the final step, which can occur either today or in the future, as y'all decide, is adopt the actual ordinance, which splits the precincts to accommodate creating the map. And so it's got to be the ordinance to, describe the split precincts and then to say which precincts go in which district. So that will conform to the map, but it would be to adopt the ordinance. So the last step of the process is public hearing and adoption of ordinance. That can either occur today, it is teed up procedurally and legally to occur this afternoon, or it can occur, in the future over the next couple months if y'all vote to postpone it. So as Katie had said, technically the deadline in statute was August, but because the census was delayed 5 months because of COVID, most people are assuming that bought you 5 months. So that would put you to January, but to have time to do all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, my recommendation would to be done with it, for sure by December. But happy to take any questions. We started this process 3 months ago with a number of variants. Recently, a few folks have asked about the 6, and so I did go back and kind of retweak that one. But we had a number of variants. It kind of settled after the second meeting, last month, on coming back with a 5 that had input from the folks that were kind of more interested in the 5, and then the 8 that had certain areas that had input from folks that were interested in the 8. I think in general, there's a few things that are going to be true no matter what's done. So if you want to equalize the populations among the districts, to put it beyond doubt and put it beyond any question in a lawsuit, if that is an objective, then that means there is at least one district that has to cross the river to make the mathematics work. In the 5, it was the
Big Lake District going just a little bit into Hackberry. In the 8, it was the Johnson Bayou District coming across the river, in areas to try to pick up the population. As Mr. McDaniel said, there can be tweaks, but I don't want to, discourage anybody from, or I guess I need to disabuse you of making sure that some things are kind of on the record. What 10 years ago was the principle. The principle was we're not going to cross the river, but we're going to equalize the districts to the west and to the east respectfully. That eventually was okayed by the federal court, although in settlement we ended up with the map that elected this jury here. But once the decision's made to cross the river, you don't have an argument to not equalize them anymore. So whatever you're going to do is going to have to make the tough decisions of getting within that plus or minus 5% that everybody else in the country adheres to. One of the things that had been asked is, well, I don't like that the Johnson Bayou District goes into Big Lake. I don't like that the Cameron District comes up into Grand Lake. I guess the only thing I'll say is, if we were to go back to the drawing board, you could potentially solve one of those problems. You cannot solve both. It becomes a matter of mathematics that if you're looking for people for the Johnson Bayou-based district, if you're going to have one, then they got to come from the east side of the river. And if you push it further into Cameron instead of in the way that it was done, then that'll require the Cameron-based district to go further to the north. So I guess all I wanted to say is, if you stick with 8, while there are some things that could be adjusted, you absolutely cannot solve all the problems that people may be concerned about. It just becomes mathematically impossible. Obviously, that's why there was a 6 and a 5 that y'all looked at kind of along the way. But long story short, if y'all want to vote to postpone it, and that's y'all's vote, then we can circle back up and have the ordinance teed up. The only ordinance that is written is the ordinance to implement that 8-member map. So because there's a lot of road descriptions and all this kind of stuff, it could not be changed on the fly for this afternoon. It's basically either vote for that or postpone it. But if y'all did want to vote to postpone it right now, the follow-up would be, y'all tell me what it is you want written up, and I'll be happy to write it up, and be happy to take a look at some things along the way. So that is possible. We do have a couple months. It does need to be done by December, but it is written up for today per y'all's There's
vote.
no way around it from taking in different parts of the area and keeping all communities whole. We tried that. Years in past, my districts took on Klondike and Lowry. Then they end up having to take on support of Sweet Lake. Well, that's just part of it. Now Cameron's going to Sweet Lake, and my district shoved over. But it's always been like that, Everybody wants to stay in their own little community, but, we don't write the laws, we don't do the census, so we can't control what's in each one of those blocks. We just have to add up to the right number. So we have to do what we got to do sometime to move things around, So it don't matter if we go with a 5 or an 8, it's still going to be the same scenario. You're going to be moving around.
Different people may be affected.
Exactly.
I'd be happy to take any questions, but other than that, y'all. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to go drawer to drawer, let them explain where they stand on this, and then we have some green cards, and then we have some other paperwork. So if we'll start off with Thomas, give your reasoning or whatever you want to do, and.
Well, my reason is to where the parish, keep it like it is, to where the parish can kind of be equally representative. If we change to a 5-member map, that would put pretty much Cameron, Creole, Grand Chenier, Lishenier, Chenier Pardue, East Creole, Klondike, and Lowry under one juror. Well, that's almost impossible. That's a third of the parish to take care of. Some jurors think they can take care of the whole parish by themselves. Well, you probably, if you did it at a full-time job, you might be able to do it, but I just don't think that the area will be well represented. And that's why I'm trying to stick with the 8-member map to where everybody can be well represented.
Scott?
I'm for 8 members I done expressed my opinion, and I think 8 members is the way to go. That way, the way the whole parish is represented, each area, each little district. I don't have a problem working with Sweet Lake people, Grand Lake people, where my district goes. I don't have a problem working with Cameron Creole and all that. And hell, we all from the same area.
Family everywhere.
We all family. And I mean, it's not to me. It's not a big issue. I mean, I just think we need to keep 8. It's in the it's within that 5%. So it's nothing. It can't be challenged. So not like the time before, where the numbers were way off, and everybody will be represented. You know, I know I'm a big talking subject over there at Chesholms. You know, and but I'm willing to help these people. I've never done nobody nothing wrong over there. And so any of you people in Sweet Lake that I represent, I'm more than willing to work with y'all. And I look forward to it. I just want to let y'all know. So I'm sticking with the 8, and I can represent anybody.
Okay. Joe?
Well, I'm with the 5, and the reason why is 30 years ago we didn't have communications like we have today. So I know that I can represent a lot more area with the communications we got, talking to my people, whoever I have to talk to. And I just think with the population change and not as many people we have in our parish, down to 40-something hundred, we need to reduce the juror. I think we can service the people with 5 just as good as we can with 8. And I'm with 5 the whole way. I've been like that, and I'm not going to change my mind.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak. I'm for 5. With our population the way it is, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, we have a big parish. I travel anywhere. Anybody calls me, I'll go. For as taking care or representing this parish, I'm like the rest of them. I'll represent anybody, and you call, and I'm going to be there. They say that this has nothing to do with money. It always has something to do with money. It always does. Okay. Maybe it's not a lot to some people, but to me it is. I also believe that you people should make this decision, not me, and not him, and not him, and not him. This should be voted on by the public, not by 8 individuals sitting up here. It should be voted on by the people that's being represented. And that's where I stand. 5. Lee?
Can I speak after the people talk?
No, you gotta speak with the rest of us.
Let's roll it.
Well,
after they talk, you can talk again. I mean,
okay. Well, that's all right. My thing is, a month ago, we voted on an issue that was brought to us that we had talked about amongst ourselves for probably 2 months or 3 months. We had talked to the staff and made sure we did the public hearings and the public in the paper, and I even went and talked to the news people and told them how I come to a decision to vote for 8 last month. And I'm going to try to tell you again so that everybody understands, and that way you'll all understand. A month ago, prior to the meeting, I had talked with a school board member, and they had told me that they had did an 8-member map, and I asked them, I said, well, y'all going with 8 members? I said, y'all not going into Big Lake? Because I'd seen our maps. And they said, no, we cut that out and did this and did that. And I said, okay. Well, I said, how many people protested? He said, nobody come protest. I said, well, when y'all qualified, how many people come and protested that? Well, he said, nobody come. I said, seven school board members run unopposed. Nobody run against them. Trying to get you to understand where I was a month ago. So I come back to the jury. The 2 months prior to me making that decision, this jury was 7-1 in favor of an 8-member map. That's how we when we started off, Joe didn't want an 8-member map. He never did. He wanted 5 members. But the rest of us had pretty much talked to each other and wanted 8 members.
No.
Yeah, I talked.
Okay, go ahead, but you're wrong.
Well, I might be wrong, but I mean, it was like that. But anyway, so that's how I come to a decision. I based it off of not hearing nothing from the people and not hearing no flack from what was going on with the school board. And I said, well, it's pretty much a no-brainer. When we sit up here, we speak as a group for the Cameron Parish. When I leave this building, I speak for an elected margin of the parish. My people I say my people, it's not my people, it's the people I represent. I speak for them. They're telling me that they didn't have time or they didn't know, for whatever reason, that they didn't have enough time to weigh in on this redistricting. So what I'm going to ask the jury to do is to table it. And I asked Mr. Cole to bring us other plans. I want to see, because I don't agree with the 5-member map, and I'll tell you why I don't agree with it. There's 3 members that I was told went to Mr. Cole, met with him to draw up the 5-member map. And I don't know if that's true or it's not. I don't know. That's what I was told. Mr. Cole never invited me to go to his office. He invited the whole group to go to his office, but I never got a phone call when they went. The members went. But when that 5-member map come back, the 3 members that voted for the 5-member map didn't have to run against another opposition in the parish, another policeman in the parish. I don't like that. When we voted last month, we voted 5-3. And the 3 that didn't come out on the top end are now saying that we didn't vote for it and we didn't, got the public all up in a big roar. Why didn't they come talk to me? I hadn't heard from them. You know when I heard from them? 2 days ago. 2 days ago. 3 days ago. One called me. None of the other ones called me. None of the other ones want to work with me. None of the other ones want to let me know. The public didn't let me know before I voted last month. But I want to do this. I want to postpone this. And in 2 or 3 weeks, I want Mr. Cole to bring us some maps. A 6-member map, 5-member map, and an 8-member map.
Why not do 7 too?
We might do 7 too. And I want as many people from my district to be at that meeting. We'll have it. We'll organize it with Katie. We'll have it in Grand Lake. Everybody come. We'll look at all the maps, not just the 5-member map and not just the 8-member map. And then we'll start again. And when we leave that meeting, hopefully all of us will have a consensus of what the people want of this parish.
Not just one district, though.
Not just one district.
Fair.
Hey, not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's happy right now. But this bickering back and forth is not helping our parish. This is something that's real important. We only do it once every 10 years. And we speak for the people of our district we represent. And my district is saying they didn't have time to voice their opinion to me so I could vote properly. And I'll end it like that.
Mr. Wood?
Okay. About 2 years ago, I think it'd be probably 2 years in January, February, there was a meeting held in Lake Charles, and I went to it. I think you were there. Some of us were. Over this redistricting, and it was brought up about 5 members back then. And at that time, and for quite some time after that, I was a 5-member man. And things changed, and I felt to better represent the people as a whole in the parish, I leaned towards 8. And I voted 8 the last time that we all voted over here. In the last 2 days, I have gotten a tremendous amount of calls and text messages and everything. And some of these text messages were just numbers. I responded back and asked these people to give me their names so I would know who they were and where they were from. And they did, every one of them. So with us having to, if we were to put it on hold and vote later, I would be in favor of that, and having another public meeting and letting people know. And what you talked about up to 7 members, I would, we need to look at everything. Most of the people in my area were not as concerned about the numbers as the fact that I was giving away part of Big Lake. They just thought I was giving it away, and I'm not giving it away. But because I will represent everybody in this parish. So with that being said, I would like for us to table it also right now and give people a chance, and then give Kate a chance to come up with some different options. I think that it's possible that we could do that, put our heads together and come up with different options, different maps. So that's where I stand right now.
Sonny?
In a perfect world, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but we don't live in a perfect world. We have to do things that we think are fair for everybody. A democratic government operates on representation from different areas. There's reasons for that, because every area does not feel the same pains or same issues that other areas do. I don't feel there's any way that 5 people can represent as well as 8. If I'd vote to go to 15 before I'd go to 5. And the reason is I think that the different communities, even though they're hurt because of these storms and they're suffering, a lot of these people are coming back. Okay, we said that last time. And a lot of people said, no, they're not, but they did, and they still are coming back. So my deal is I think our parish has existed with the representation that we have. We were forced to go to 8 with the last redistricting map because we got sued because we didn't represent correctly, okay? These maps here are not challengeable. Unlike the school board, they meet the criteria of the law, and we've tried our very best to do what's best for all the people. All the people. Everybody counts, not just some people. I'm for 8. I'm for voting today, and that's pretty much the way I feel.
Okay. Kirk?
Well, I'm 5 all the way. Always was. Never did look at a different map. The reasoning for that, we're talking about uniting the parish. We're talking about representation. We're talking about districts running all the way around the parish. District 3, which is me, would encompass Klondike and Lowry. It's mileage. It's not that many people. I can handle it. The real big picture we all got to look at here, I think, is I listen to a lot of people that call me on the streets. I work for them. I don't work to make my own decision here. My own decision is what's the best of the people, what they're asking for. I got to give it to them. And I try to work for them the best to my knowledge. And if we don't start listening to our people in the parish and working towards what would bring this parish back together as one, we will stay always apart. And until that happens, we can come together. We can have 15, we can have 20. But until we come together and listen to the people in the parish, we will never move forward. We're going to steadily go backwards. So if the people want whatever they want, if it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if they're happy, I'm happy for them too. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us listening to what the people want. I see there's a whole lot of white cords right there. So evidently our parish is speaking right now, and we're not listening. it's time we start listening to what the people want and not what I want sitting behind this computer right here, and do what they're asking us to do. There's a better way. Everybody has ideas. Bring us ideas of how to fix the problem. And I think we're getting somewhere right now with all the people coming forward and asking us to fix the problem. And that's where I'm at today, is that I want to try to fix the problem with the people, not with what I want. Thank you.
Okay, my turn again. It's one area, really, truthfully, that has the problem. I haven't got one call from nobody in my district.
That's
Scott
where all the
hasn't-
people's at,
Huh?
is in that one area.
Well,
That's where everybody's at. There's
No, it
nobody
ain't.
down
No, we
south.
got a whole parish, and you got to divide them up. We didn't do the census. We got to go by the census, okay? Scott says he ain't had nobody. I mean, you had anybody? Truthfully, how many did you have call you?
I had a bunch call me. And I can't count how many,
Yeah.
but I know half of these guys sitting out there have called me and much more.
They elect
But all
us.
the people
They
is in
elect us
Grand Lake
to make a
area, in
decision.
Hackberry area.
They elect us to make a decision.
Yeah.
I made my decision. I haven't had anybody call me back. So he's talking about listening to the people. I'm listening to my people.
No, because you had no people down there.
You
if
just
they had
said
a
you made your decision.
No, listen, that's my turn to talk. If they had a complaint, they would call me. So this area is good with it. Now, if y'all's area wants to change, I mean, that's them. But you can't say the whole parish and work with the whole parish. I am. I haven't got one person call me. So.
Green cards.
I ain't gonna say. I'm gonna be nice.
We're gonna, okay.
I just want to say one thing, and I just want to say one thing. You talking about money. This ain't about money. I mean, $50,000, you said, Curtis, on the TV the other night or something like that?
Yeah.
50,000. You look at all
When
them
you do your
cars-
job.
You look at all them cars underneath here and them two limousines that drive back and forth to Lake Charles or to Grand Lake every day or to Sweet Lake, hauling people back and forth. Back whenever I was a juror, way back when, we had one vehicle over here, maybe two, that they drove to work and they got in that vehicle and they went somewhere if they had to go to a meeting or something like that. Not everybody had all company cars like they do today. So you talking about saving money, you cut back on all these company vehicles we got around here. And I'll take half the salary if you want to save money.
Anybody else? We can do it. Whatever you want to do. You want to take the vehicles away? Let's do it.
But it ain't 50,000. That ain't nothing. You got a school board got a $13 million deficit, and people will be hollering over there.
Nobody.
We got a balanced budget over here.
We
got to start off 13 million in the hole.
So we just keep on spending the people's money.
gotta-
not
No,
the citizens'
that's what I'm
taxes.
saying.
Hey, one person at a time.
Yeah, we do.
We can sit here and we can argue all day long, okay? All day long we can argue. We have our opinion. Each one of you gave your opinion, all right? So now it's the public's turn to talk, all right? And I want to remind the public, those that have these cards, I want to remind you what each and every one of these gentlemen said. They have their opinion. I had mine, just like each and every one of them, all right? You have your opinion. And we ask you to just remember what each and every one of them said and give us your opinion. Mr. Howard Romero is going to be the first one on the green card.
I know why you selected me, and I'm the oldest guy in the bunch. See, I remember when none of you guys had gray hair, and I remember when some of you guys had hair.
Easy.
See? So I've been around here a long, long time. That's why I haven't bothered any of y'all about this, because it's a hard job, and you're never going to satisfy everybody. One thing I know about a map, I don't like any of them. I remember when Polish jurymen's was selected by communities, and they didn't have to go by a map with putting 50 people here and 50 people there. And all of my talk about is I want to make sure that the parish is represented. People are represented. Every community has a different problem. And I'm sorry, I didn't even know how y'all voted tonight. I heard y'all voted for 8. And I said, well, there's 8 of them there, so they're going to keep 8. I was okay with that. Then you got to take the map and start dividing communities up. Not your fault. It's the government coming in telling you what you have to do. So I would never think that you would go less than that. Hey, I serve on a board that's got 11. You know why we have 11? Because we got 2 from every community in the parish. And we work well together. It's called the Port Board. And I've worked with them. Butch, you've been to a lot of our meetings.
Yep.
How do we do that? We listen to everybody. We listen to their opinion. We come up with a solution. I didn't even know how y'all voted tonight. I had no clue. Never bothered y'all about it. Maybe y'all ought to look at 11, because don't get money involved in representation of your people, because that's the important part that you need to be thinking about. So put that as number 1. I want to make sure that my people are represented. I want to make sure that Hackberry's represented, Grand Lake's represented, all parts of this parish are represented. Now, if you want to go to make them smaller, put me in charge. 1 for the whole parish. I'll do everybody, right? But you see, that's not called democratically. That would be a dictatorship, is what we're trying to get away from. So you all voted. I understand now that you all voted for 8. So you have to make the map fit for 8, because you can't go back and re-vote. If you can do that, I want to go back and re-vote some things that I lost at with the port. I want to go back and redo it. Every time it don't fit me, I want to redo it. You're never going to get there, guys, and you're never going to satisfy all the people. It's a sad situation, but these darn maps separate your communities. And I know you're trying to do, I know all of you. I don't think any one of you are trying to do anything against the people of Cameron Parish. I think you're thinking you're doing what you think is right, and you have your opinion. Everybody does. But you're never going to do a perfect world. There's only one guy who ever did it right and did everything right, and they crucified him. So what you think they would do to me and you? So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. We're going to move to Mr. Wendell Wilkerson.
Really don't have much to say other than the fact that I think that a lot of this came to pass because I don't think anybody got calls from any of you guys on exactly what we thought or anything else. And there's people in every community that we get calls, and a lot of them are sitting here today to get called of who we think we need to vote for what, or what we think about something that's going on in the community. And you know, when you went out and you ran for police jury, you went out and knocked on doors and you asked people for your votes. But I don't know, with the exception of a few, and there are a few all that checked around, that even considered what anybody else thought about how many were in a district or anything else. And the other thing I think that really confused people or upset people once the maps were put out is that according to law, that if you're an incumbent, you have to be encompassed in one of the districts. So if they have to draw a line outside that district to get the numbers right to the 695 or the 705 or whatever the number is, it has to be, it just looks suspicious, whether it's legal or not. And I know Tom says it's legal to make it work out that way. And that's the exact same reason why we have 2 separate school board districts and police jury districts, because they had to encompass whoever the incumbents were. And if you're an incumbent and you're concerned about not being reelected, then that's something personal with yourself or whoever your constituents are, not trying to figure out what's best for the parish. And you know, I made a lot of calls and just started asking around, because when this thing kind of got blown up, and I don't know anybody that is in agreement to the 8 over the 5. And of course, it's real easy when you're asking the questions to lead the question. So, you know, I can get the answers that I probably want, and so can you. But the long and the short of it is, I think that you guys as police jury members need to do a better job of calling who's in your district, and not only in your district. And I'll give Joe credit for that. Joe calls people in every district. He's never been my police jury member, but he's asked me some questions. I don't know that I've gotten calls from any of you guys on anything really. And not that I'm anybody, but I do have an opinion. I'm pretty opinionated about what I have to say, whether I'm right or wrong, and I'm not always right. But I just think you guys need to do a better job of calling around and finding out what people want and informing them. The worst problem you can have is people not being informed. If they're not informed, they're going to assume one thing or another. They're going to hear what they hear at the store or whatever store it is they're going to. But it's just really confusing, and I think that if you look at the number of people that are signed on those papers, the first thing they say is, well, why do we need 8? And every one of y'all ought to be representing everybody in the parish. It shouldn't matter what district they're in. If Grand Chenier has a drainage problem, it needs to be fixed. If Hackberry's got a problem or Johnson Bayou, you need to be representing everybody. And if we did that alone, there wouldn't be all this confusion and arguments over who did what or what district got what. We're all one parish. We've been fractured. I've always said that there's 8 to 10 different personalities in this parish. When you go to Klondike, Lowry, all the different ones of Johnson Bayou, Hackberry, Little Chenier, Cameron, Grand Chenier, you just go on and on and on. That we need some continuity here somewhere, and it's up to you guys to make that happen. And not calling around and asking and trying to find out what people's true opinions are is a whole lot of the problem here. And good luck with it. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. We'll move on to Mr. Pat Howerton. That's not a problem. Mr. Ricky?
Y'all gotta take care of that. You're gonna kill somebody.
Thank y'all
Yes, sir.
for hearing us today. There's nothing real comfortable about all this. There's nothing easy. I heard y'all all been put on the spot in a sense. You had to speak your mind and what you felt was right. And that's what we all have to do. So come together and feel like what we're doing is right. And I'm saying this, I'm going to say this today. I've had a lot bottled up in me because I had a fear to say something that might have sounded like I was being favoring where I was born and raised at. You're going to have to hear me out on everything. I'm not making this a north and a south and an east and a west. Don't judge and don't take few little things I'm going to say and judge me on that. Listen to it all. I really believe years in our forefathers that came to Cameron Parish and placed this courthouse where it is today had a vision for this parish. And I really believe they had a good vision. It worked. It flourished. It did what they seen it to do. They were wise at doing and making that decision what was there and at that time. I mean, they put our infrastructure where it belonged, in the waterways where the industrial, the commercial, the fishermen, and the residents, it all flourished here, and it all worked. I can remember, and look, I'm going to say this because I done lost my train of thought. I'm going to testify according to what I have experienced myself. I'm not going to maybe be saying Johnson Bayou and Hackberry. It's not that I don't think they're part of this parish. It's not that they're not important. It's because I didn't experience that side of the river. I'm going to tell you what I have seen, what I have walked, and what I feel. The South was flourishing. Our forefathers that put everything here, it was good. It worked. We had everything here. Cameron was on the map. Everybody talked about us. We were booming. South Cameron had a high school football team that everybody knew about. Nobody wanted to come play them down here. And I was I was in Grand Lake. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm saying this from my heart, I did never attend a football game. But I'm telling you, every Saturday morning I picked up the American Press, I went straight to that sports section. I looked at the scores. I wanted to see who South Cameron upset it. Because by paper, they shouldn't have done half of what they did. You can't train what they did. There's something in them that made them what they were. And I really think it's Cameron Parish. Things change. There ain't a person in here did anything that caused what we've been doing, went through in these last 20 years. Nobody took nothing from nobody. We got dealt, for whatever reason, some horrible things we never probably ever visioned we would experience and have to deal with, and decisions that we had to make on the run. Hard decisions. Some of them I don't agree with, but you had to do them. And some of them, I think, were made by living in the past. Look, things are changing. Look at this whole parish has been redone, tore up, whatever you want to call it. We're not what we used to be. Not by any fault anybody in here. Today's world is fast-paced, moving. If you don't keep up with it, you're going to be behind. You got to make some decisions that didn't work in the past. My dad started a little family business with a hammer, nails, shingles, and a handshake. I've taken over. I've grown it. He'd roll over in his grave. I'm making decisions. I'm doing business now with 12, 20-page contracts. Putting systems on, he'd roll over in his grave. It ain't going to work. You don't need this, you don't need that. I get all that. But we've got to survive. We've got to change. We've got to refocus, regroup, reunite. I think those same forefathers that came and put that courthouse here, if they came back today, I think their vision would change. Were they wrong 60 years ago? No. You could tell they were right. They didn't foresee these storms. They didn't foresee the economy fail. I think if they came back today and looked and said, no, we got to relook at this. We got to rethink it. We got to regroup. We got to unite. We got to have a different vision. We can't look behind. If we continue to make decisions today, what it was yesterday, we're going to lose this parish. We're going to lose. We're not going to survive. Can we unite? We're smaller than we've ever been. Can we reunite and move forward with a different vision and make a different... Look, I'm going to tell you where I'm at. I was living and still are living in Grand Lake when they were Class C. It took me 30 minutes to go get a hamburger and a Coke in a concession stand because I knew everybody. I visited. We talked before I got to the concession stand. I was there forever. I go to a game today in Grand Lake. I don't know everybody. It's still 30, 40 minutes to get a hamburger and Coke. It's because the line's so long. It's changed. Sometimes I want to go back to Class C. But it's what's been dealt to us.
It's tough decisions. You guys right now are making tough decisions. You're making a decision to unite us, to bring us forward, to move us with the times and the decisions that are dealt today. We didn't ask for them. Do I think we can all be represented with 5, 8, whatever? 8, I honestly believe 5's a better plan. But I hadn't seen them all. And you guys are more, you got the ins and outs. But I'm asking you to take the blinders off, to look around. We can't look back. Do we want to forget our memories and our past? No, I'm not saying that. But what worked yesterday is probably not going to work today. I thank y'all. I thank you for hearing me. And I pray every day. The Bible says, pray for the ones in authority. I don't call your names out when I pray, but some of your faces flash in front of my face when I do pray.
Hope mine stays there.
It will now. I'm just saying and asking we need a new vision. Not that we need to unite and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ricky. We have one more, Mr. Craig Broussard.
Yeah, first, thank you for opening it up, and I think there's been some really constructive comments heard, and there is, what I want to open up with is there's no right or wrong answer here. I look at it as like a Sears catalog, good and best, and hopefully we're striving for the best. And I hope you listen to your constituents and do the right thing. There, like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. We're going to move forward. And next, I just want to thank y'all. I mean, I know y'all get a lot of phone calls, and it's not people calling thanking you for your service, but y'all, I want to publicly thank y'all, because y'all have really gone, over the last few years, y'all have really gone through hell and brought us with you, and we're coming out of it. And I think that needs to be recognized. But now I want to, as someone of the others said, we got to put the past leave the past in the back and look toward Cameron future into the future. I heard one of the police jurymen say, we've been in recovery mode for 17 years. And I have to agree with you. Yeah. And we all have. But we need to, I think we're poised with industry, with the community, with business, everything. We're poised to turn the corner and get into growth mode. And we have to. I'm expecting y'all to do that. And to do that, we need to build an infrastructure. We need to build the infrastructure back in Cameron that people will want to come back. I've made several comments. I don't see how I'd want to be an employee of an LNG plant down here where I'd have to drive an hour each way back and forth to work. With the price of fuel and everything, it'd be crazy. So I hope we're going to build an infrastructure to where we can bring back the old people, the people that have left the area. Hopefully we have an incentive for they can come back home. And then employees that are coming, we welcome them, and we make it easy for them to live next to their jobs. And I'd like to talk to the parents. I just want to give you a data point. I was asked to go do some history, so I did a homework assignment, and I went and looked, at all the parishes in Louisiana, number of police jurymen per parish, how many people they represent. This is just a data point. There's no right or wrong answer here. But I always used to tell people that would come visit me, I said, I live in the largest parish in Louisiana, and we got the fewest number of people. There's more cows in Cameron Parish than there are people. I got to tell you, I was wrong. There is a parish that has fewer number of people than we do. Tensas.
Yeah.
And it got 52. And by the way, you know how many police jury members they have? 4. Just a data point. You know, I want y'all to remember this quote because I used it a lot in my business, dealing with my kids even. And it says the correct path forward is usually not the path of least resistance. The right answer is sometimes it's hard. And I appreciate it because y'all have to make the decision, and I pray that y'all make the right one. And you pledge an oath to the flag. You swore to represent the people of your constituencies. So, you know, listen to them, and I pray that y'all make the best decision you can, and God bless.
Thank you, sir. We also have some cards that has been called in or sent in to the jury. Mary has a number. Could you read those out for us, please?
These?
Don't read them. No.
Oh,
No.
there's 236 right here. I have 3 that I had gotten already, and then through email today, 1, 2, 3. I have an additional 3.
And those
All oppose the 8-member map.
How many?
There's 236 here. There's 3 in y'all's packet, and then I received 3 emails this morning.
Yeah, I like to know where they come from.
I wanna know I don't need to know right now.
I'll have it.
Yeah.
I can have.
Once it's put in public record, I want a copy of them. Or
Yes, sir. I
at
have
least
to
know
scan them to put them in the
where they
minutes.
come
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
I wanna say something before we
Okay,
quit.
let's
You
go.
told me I could, right?
Yeah.
I heard everybody. I almost lost my train of thought, but I didn't. Sound like to me, guys, we're gonna have to compromise. Because it's up to me and Butch, sounds like. You got 3 hard on one side and 3 hard on the other side, and the 2 left in the middle is me and Butch, seems like. But if I move forward, it's gonna be with a compromise. It's not gonna be one way or the other. And I feel we're gonna have to compromise. And that's why I asked Mr. Cole to do some work. And if we table this motion today, I don't know that it will be tabled, but if we do, I really want to hear from the people, and we're gonna get those things, maps, however many we need to get out to the public. We're gonna have some public meetings. Whether we need one every week, I don't know. But we want to hear from y'all. I need to hear from y'all. They might not need to hear from y'all, but I need to hear from y'all.
First, I want to say one thing, and Lee.
You too? Okay.
Everybody's on Facebook.
No, not everybody.
Except you.
But he reads his wife's.
The
so that's
the
different.
maps are all over Facebook. People's running their mouths all over Facebook, so it's all over there, wherever you want. Katie and them, they went in every store, put up a pin up everywhere. So I mean, it's been all over. But Lee, they're talking about y'all talking about coming together. Lee's been hollering about getting a recreation center up there in Grand Lake. Yeah, we'd already told Lee, look, you want to take some money out of the general fund, put some up for recreation center. We don't have a problem with it, but get your people to pass a tax to maintain this recreation center or to help build a recreation center. We can't, of course, the Polish jury can't go build a recreation center for y'all up there, but we all want to help. So I mean, it's all about coming together. You talking about that is coming together. We want to help y'all out. All these other recreation centers have been built on people's taxes and tax base and everything else. Nothing's been built for free. So, but we are working with, as y'all want to say, north, south, east, and west. We are working with Grand Lake to help with y'all's recreation center everybody wants up there. So, I just want to let y'all know.
Anybody else got anything to say?
Not right now, but when we go to the agendas, yes.
Okay. thank all of you for coming up here and giving us your opinion and your thoughts. They are noted. I promise you that. All the notes are all noted. We all have an opinion. They're kind of like, you know what's, and everybody's got one, but
I've got a hole in it.
they are anyway. But thank you all very much for speaking. We really appreciate that. We're going to move on to item number 10, reviewing the agenda.
I do have a question.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda, but where do we stand about getting fire stations in Grand Lake? Our ratings come up next year. And I've been getting bombarded on phone calls because if we go to a 10, everybody's got to move out because they can't afford the insurance.
Yes, so we actually, on our finance meeting at 1 o'clock, we're going to talk about the Big Lake Fire Station and helping fund the foundation on that. There's a funding gap right now. So we'll discuss that. And then the Grand Lake Fire Station is going through final design. The bid package should be ready for next month so we can bid that out. And they'll start going under construction. And I think Grangerville's already been fixed. Oh, the station and yes. So, but it's all going to be discussed at the finance meeting. I can discuss it now if you want me to, but.
Well, everybody's here. Some of the ones in the audience
So the Big Lake Fire Station, the board elected to not use FEMA funds and just use their insurance money to replace it. The difference between that was if they would have used FEMA funds, they would have had to bill to the current codes, and you're looking at like $1 million facility. They decided to just do a pole barn and do a fire garage. So that's what the board decided to do, and they permitted it. And the slab that was engineered with that original pole barn was only like a 4-inch slab. And so once our project manager, Randy Thomas, and then our parish engineer looked at it, they realized that it probably wouldn't sustain the weight of the fire trucks. And they were concerned about it cracking and breaking. So Gary, our parish engineer, designed them a slab that would withstand the fire trucks and support the weight of it. The problem is they're short on insurance money right now while it's going through litigation. So we were going to ask you today as a jury to pay for the slab, which our lowest quote, we got 5 quotes, it was $69,000. We're going to ask you to go ahead and pay for that slab, and then when the insurance money did come in, we could reimburse the general fund, or you could just directly allocate it as an allocation, a part of your budget. And if they get any more insurance money, then they could direct that maybe toward any fire equipment or future. I think they're trying to buy a fire truck. They've been trying to save money to buy a new fire truck. So that was the question that was going to be posed today at the finance meeting.
Okay, so they short, this company that
$70,000.
built the building, signed off engineered drawings of the weight going on it. They come in, put a 4-inch slab.
It was permitted as a storage. It's essentially a pole barn, and so it was permitted. It is compliant with our building code and standards. It's just not necessarily something that our engineer and project manager Randy Thomas was comfortable with seeing. They were concerned that the weight of the fire truck would eventually crack it, and then we would have some issues moving forward. So they wanted to do it right from the beginning.
What is our responsibility on the cracking of the slab? If they chose to,
it would.
The contractor's guaranteeing this building, this slab?
The contractor's just guaranteeing that the foundation would support the wind load, not that it would support fire trucks.
It's not going to support, 4-inch slab is not going
Donna's
to
got
support
something
that
to
much.
say.
Okay.
And we need that so desperately to be done.
Is the slab poured now at the 4-inch? Oh, so it's dirt. So ain't no demolition. Okay. All right.
No, we're ready to pour the slab. You give us the allocation today, and tomorrow the contractor is ready to proceed.
We have a budget meeting at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
And pretty sure we're gonna,
Yeah, it's on
Yes,
the
sir.
budget meeting.
we'll make sure. How about Murier?
So, Murray, same scenario. There's a funding gap right now between FEMA funds and the fire station having the surplus funds to repair it. So we were going to ask for you to temporarily, well, not temporarily, but delegate authority to Kayla, our parish treasurer, to fund any funding gaps pending FEMA reimbursements.
Wait, but FEMA's supposed to cover the 100%.
Yes, FEMA
So
will
we'll get
cover it.
reimbursed for it. It ain't
Yeah,
like we got.
money's coming back.
FEMA's a reimbursement program. You don't get the money up front, so you have to spend it. Then you might have to wait 6 to 8 months. And the Grand Chenier Fire Station, the Grand Chenier Fire Fund, doesn't have $400,000, in their surplus that they feel comfortable expending.
I do have one more question for Dinah. The other fire station, the old one, that's gone now. Are they gonna allow us any lenience at all?
No, sir, they gave us a letter 2 years ago that said we had 24 months. And at that point in time, it was, 24 months, we could do that. So I just don't know how bad it's gonna be.
So, what would be the minimum requirement, what they're looking for? Is it just put a roof over the?
What we just did on the auto.
Okay.
We have to be able to put electricity in it. We have to be able to provide heat to the trucks. And we have, for the winter time, that we have to keep them out of the sun. Because now we've got damaged trucks. We've got damaged hoses. We've got thousands of dollars worth to do on the trucks because they're out.
Okay.
We really need to do something to make it, so we don't have to go back again and again and again
Right.
and again. We need to make it stable.
Miss Wendy's meeting.
What, Wendy?
EIAL, which is who rates our fire stations.
Right.
Gave us, it is 2023, 2024, because when it was supposed to be done in 2022, however, 2022, 2023, but when Ida hit, the state came in and said, all of Louisiana, they're gonna push it back another year. So we have 2023, 2024 to do our ratings.
And that's not anything that has been shared with us, because my letter says 2022 before the end of 2023.
Okay.
So I wish we
Yeah.
would get the the same communication, because they've already started to send me packets.
Okay. All right.
The only reason I know that is because we got one down here, Mr. Tim got that letter, and then so did.
On the finance meeting.
See, I didn't get that.
Wendy, and Martha, could y'all please get together and discuss that?
Yeah.
Please. Anything else? Everybody's good?
Only question I got has to do with one of the permits. It's the same one that she came up and talked about. If we're gonna approve that permit, I wanna approve it with a stipulation that they go through the operational plan and we have a chance to put our 2 cents in.
Can we do that?
On the CPRA?
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that I'm still gonna say, they need to be in contact with the Corps that operate that. That thing ties into that intercoastal waterway. They can say it don't, but I can take you in a boat and drive down a canal that goes right into the waterway.
How many
So,
you wanna
Mr.
go
Sonny,
to?
what-
How many you want like that? They all like, there's a bunch of them.
So I mean, just saying.
Mary,
Yes,
what
sir.
about the leases we got coming up and the purchase of the property?
Okay, so a couple of months ago, y'all had asked us to go out to get some appraisals on Crab Lady Landing for us to be able to lease it. Gary's Landing for us, Gary's Landing actually has,
That's a lease.
that's a lease. It's, Klondike Dump has a new owner, so we had to go out to see what it was worth, Cameron Dump and Lakeside. So Crab Lady Landing, we'd like to get authority to advertise to lease this property for no less than $5,000 a year. These would all have to be add-ons. We had a gentleman that came in, was interested in leasing it, and with what we got in from the appraised value for the lease, we'd like to go authority to advertise to lease the property for no less than $5,000 a year.
Is that on the agenda?
All you gotta
No,
say.
fixing to-
Yeah.
Okay.
I think those five that was on that list, Mary,
Yeah.
we won't put that.
Yeah, okay,
She's
so
gonna
the
get it.
second one is for Gary's Landing lease. We would like to get authority to lease Gary's Landing. It's gonna be around $4,800 a year, and present authority to sign all documents necessary to lease the property. The third one was Klondike Dump. We'd like to get authority to negotiate a new lease with the new landowners. We will come back to y'all once the lease is negotiated and reviewed by legal, and y'all can make a decision whether we want to lease it or what y'all want to do with it. The fourth one is Cameron Dump. Right now, we're paying $2,000 a year for 2 acres. The lease expires October of 2025. So we had 20 acres appraised, and we can actually purchase 20 acres for around $56,000. So we would like authority to purchase the 20-plus acres and present authority to sign all documents. That's the one we can also utilize as a staging area if needed. And the last one is Lakeside Boat Launch. We currently lease this property, and they would like to sell it. It's $94,000. So we'd like authority to purchase and present authority to sign all necessary documents for the purchase. All of this is contingent on legal review before y'all sign anything.
Okay, I think,
Put all on the
agreement.
agenda.
So that's gonna be 5 add-ons,
Yeah,
those 5.
I think everybody's in agreement to move that forward.
Okay.
Anything else? Everybody reviewed the agenda? Well, we're gonna call this meeting adjourned.